get your shit splat. Stop letting this shit slide and get your lick back. And get your lick back. Get your lick back. If a nigga owe you something, ain't no chit chat. Better stay up out the way, don't get your shit splat. Stop letting this shit slide and get your lick back. And get your lick back. I feel like I'm JX. J-Way. I'm a perfectionist. Adderall got me restless. I'm gone. Run with a wild crew, they get reckless. Young boy, come up off that neck. Into the trends. See a lead, be the band.
Good evening and welcome to another episode of Corner to Copa. It's a scorcher in Michigan, all over the state. It is on fire, 90 plus degrees. So I hope that if you're in the Midwest area or wherever you're at, you're staying cool. I got the AC unit off right now, so the acoustics are correct. So I'm gonna thug it out in my little studio. But Coach, how did you spend the weekend?
Oh man, summer baseball tournaments are in full swing now that high school season's over, and yesterday was a doozy. I think when I got home and emptied half my car out of the plastic water bottles and whatnot, like 400 or 500 fluid ounces in a day. Definitely extremely hot out. The humidity is no joke, but the one thing that has remained constant in the last few weeks now, as we are officially in, summer territory, Tigers are still the best team in the American League and still fighting for the best record in all baseball.
Hey, so the Tigers are 49-30. They are 9 up on Cleveland at this current moment. And, I think we said we were a little, or I may have uttered the words that it's a little boring right now. We're looking for some content, something to talk about. And, sure enough, that the Tigers will at least a couple times a week give you, we're going to win our games. We're up with a comfortable lead in the Central, but we're going to give you a little taste that if the Tigers were trash, this is what we would look like. Because it has not been pretty all the way through. The week started, it was a soggy week in Detroit, up until obviously it's hot and dry now, but it rained every single game that we had. They were completely rained out on Wednesday. No.
You're right.
They played on Tuesday, rained out on Wednesday, doubleheader on Thursday. They were able to fight through the rain for the first 5 innings, and a school outing that I would have loved to see. I was glad to see Scooble, but I hate that he had to play under those conditions. But yet and still, we blew him out in that first game, and in the second game, we fought back. It ended up going to extra innings, I believe, or it was 5-5 at a certain point. We went to extra innings. It got rained out in the 9th inning. Dennis Santana, I think there's so much to talk about, but Dennis Santana, one of the guys that was on coach's radar as a relief pitcher that we could go after, gets into it with a Pirates fan in the bullpen. I think this was before he started pitching. Yeah, this was before he started pitching. So he goes out there, torrential downpour. I'm north of the city. Me and Coach are both north of the city. And I saw the rain coming. I'm like, man, when is this going to get to Detroit? Are they going to get this game over with? They get to the 9th inning, Dennis Santana's pitching, and they have to delay the game. Don Kelly gets thrown out. He's pissed because he's throwing out, one of his better relievers because he's not going to come back after that rain delay. And eventually the game comes back. Tommy Pham beats the throw at home. The Tigers end up losing that second game of the doubleheader. Just tons of rain and runs. And then we go down to Tampa or somewhere in Florida where
George Steinbrenner Stadium down there for the Yankees minor league, like spring training.
Right. And it rains a couple times there, once again, in the 9th inning of the last game of the series. But we ran into the hottest team in baseball. This is a team that I must admit that I wasn't, fully versed on. I know they got a couple good players. They got Yainer Diaz. They got a young guy, Caminero. This team likes to run. This team has the most stolen bases in baseball. Obviously, they had Chandler Simpson, who's not even up right now. They pretty much said that this is just, manipulation of his service time. But they got another guy, Caballero. He's leading the league in stolen bases. And this team not only knows how to manufacture runs through their speed and hitting and run, but this team's got some power too. And they gave us all that we can handle. Kevin Cash has been the Tampa Rays manager for 11 years. That is a long time to be managing in one place. But yeah, and quite frankly, they embarrassed us the first couple games of the year. I mean, the first couple games of the series. We finally were able to put together. It was 1-1 for a lot of the game, and then we scored 7 runs in the last couple innings. But yeah, we took the last game of the series just to salvage it, to not get swept. But Coach, any thoughts to just as far as the pitching is concerned? Is there anybody that's pitching well outside of Skubal right now?
I mean, from the starting rotation standpoint, it's kind of been 2 good starts, 2 really good starts, and then 1 stinker, kind of a mix between Casey Mize. Flaherty had a good run, and then the last 2 starts he's had have been absolutely abysmal. He's actually having a horrible last couple start stretch here. June has not been kind to him. He's actually had month over month, he's actually slowly gotten worse, ERA and other numbers included. But I think more importantly, just the last 2 starts for him, he's only collected 7 innings. So we'll get into more into that. But, like Skubal, like you said, there's some games he'll start really well, and we just don't give him run support. And he'll give up 1 or 2 runs, and we'll be down 2-1, 2-0, and he comes out and he's not even eligible for a win at that point, which is, it kind of sucks. But, it's been a challenge. We're seeing some more pitching chaos days. I know we'll get into that a little bit later on too. And I feel like we've gone from an open couple cuts on us that a Band-Aid would have sufficed, maybe a little Neosporin on there, let it heal. Now it's the point where I think, we need stitches, and we still only have Band-Aids. So we'll dive into that a little later on. But that goes both ways, not just the starting rotation, but the bullpen's been taking a hit too over the last week or two. And as if, we weren't banged up enough throughout the year, we had 2 more injuries today, both Casey Mize being pulled in the 6th inning. And I was watching, I watched pretty much all that game until it got a little out of hand in the 9th inning. And Casey was kind of lingering or laboring a little bit the inning beforehand. I saw something he was kind of doing some minor stretching out there. They don't really tend to do much when they're out there because they don't want the trainers coming out. They're athletes, they're gamers.
Trying to hide it, yeah.
So he's doing a little stretch thing out there, but it's just things that you are aware of when you're around the game long enough. You watch enough games, you tell, you can kind of pick up when things are uneasy or uncomfortable for players. And, sure enough, gave up that base hit in the very first at bat of the 6th inning, and immediately Hinch and their head trainer were popped out over the rail and were walking up there. And then as if that wasn't enough, the second at bat for Jahmai Jones, who pinch hit for Kerry Carpenter today, smashed the ball off his foot, foul ball, and had to come out. So hoping nothing broken there, maybe just a bruise, maybe a day or 2 off to take it easy on that foot. But, he's been a very controversial bat here since being called back up and having his contract purchased out of need, really. So between him and Wenciel Perez, they've been big for the outfield in their production. But, from a pitching standpoint, I'm kind of at a loss. We're plugging guys in left and right from the minor leagues to keep this ship afloat and taking on too much water here. But something's got to give one way or the other. Either we're going to get healthy or we're going to turn around, or, it's potentially going to fall apart because this is getting kind of crazy.
Yeah, we're going to touch on the pitching chaos and openers a little bit more later on. But as a whole, as far as the week is concerned, on a positive note, Javi started the week on Tuesday with 2 home runs against the Pirates in that blowout in that first game. Perez has been an extra base hit demon as of late. He's got 12 of his first 20 hits have been extra bases. He's got 5 home runs and 10 RBIs. He had a triple and a home run on Tuesday. Riley Green had a really good week. He defensively has been just, throwing his body out, all over the field, sliding, full extension dives, jumping over walls. He's from the Florida area. He hit a couple just bombs this weekend in Tampa. A couple of them were in games that we were getting blown out, where he was pretty much felt like he was playing by himself. But yeah, it's time to pay that man. Like, he's crazy. I mean, if he can never cut down his strikeouts a tiny bit, I mean, we might have a 10-time All-Star. I mean, he looks that good right now. Outside of that, yeah, Jahmai Jones has been a great option, a great upgrade as far as the lefty, left-hand pitcher specialist. He just missed hitting a home run yesterday off the top of the wall in left center. He's hitting the ball really, really well, making a strong campaign to hang out on the roster, even when Vierling comes back, which will be real soon. Outside of that, on the negative side, Tyler Holton, he's being coined Homer Holton. He's been the opener in a couple of these games, and he just hasn't looked the same. I don't know what those bullpen guys, they're just, I mean, all I can say is it's just volatile, the way they go from, I mean, Holton had MVP votes last year. That's how good he was. Not that he would legitimately win the MVP, but he was that lights out. And I just, it's there's nothing to really, it's hard to explain how you fall off that bad, but he's done it. Herder, same thing. He's struggled quite a bit. We'll get into the rosters a little bit, but that's pretty much all I had to talk about as far as positivity for the week. Let's get to the first break, and then we'll touch on some roster stuff. All right, Coach, take it away.
So thankfully, this is a little bit shorter than last week's, where we had a litany of transactions and injuries. So going back briefly, we had they claimed relief pitcher Carlos Hernandez off waivers from the Phillies, who made his debut. I know his debut did not go over very well, or at least the last time he did pitch, he got popped a bit. So kind of off to a shaky start there already. With that, they optioned Tyler Owens down. On the 17th, Alex Lang was to have started a rehab stint with West Michigan this past Tuesday. I guess more information to be released later on that by the organization. On the 19th, we released Bravia. Kind of figured we had talked about that offline. I think literally either the morning of or the night before they made that announcement. And then they recalled Dylan Smith, who's been up and down a bit over the last few weeks here after making his debut. And on the 20th, which I think a lot of people were confused heading into the series at Montero after he had that solid start, or not start, but on the pitching chaos day against Pittsburgh. 5 innings, I think 1 earned run, 5 Ks, only 1 walk, much better on the ratio in his efficiency and his control and command, which is really good to see, considering we just alluded to some of the issues some of the other guys been having. So it's been good for him, but I think he was based off a need. He figured, AJ, that, okay, probably gonna need a bullpen guy for this series, and we have an off day Monday, so always can go back and reset that and bring it back up when needed. Aside from that, Alex Cobb was supposed to have thrown a bullpen session yesterday after occurring a other hip injury and receiving additional cortisone shots last week. I'm still not optimistic about him maybe even being ready until after All-Star trade deadline, August, maybe. Like, It's getting kind of crazy. But aside from that, AJ said yesterday after the game, I believe, that Olsen needs one more rehab start before they activate him. So as you alluded to with Vierling, he is also right on the cusp of returning. And frankly, they could use both options at this point. Not that anyone on the non-pitching side where Vierling does play has been playing poorly to a degree, because we've seen actually Javi make his debut at second base this year already this week. And Colt has gotten a few starts now at third base. So there's been bigger flexibility in the infield in that regard. So it'll be interesting to see where Vierling gets placed going forward. Because I know some people have been a little upset at McKinstry's infield fielding, but he's still right up there with some of the best guys they have in the infield. So that's it in terms of injuries and transactions.
Yeah, and Hernandez, he that second outing, he definitely struggled. I think Dylan Smith might have struggled as well. But they had some low leverage. I think Smith and Hernandez both had low leverage opportunities on the first game of the doubleheader when we were up pretty big, and it was a clean outing. But Carlos Hernandez, he's pretty much a patch job right now. Let me see if I can pull up his Savant real quick for you, just to give people an idea.
Yeah, he had okay numbers, I think, around like a 4 ERA. He was certainly an innings guy, so he's got some stuff obviously they like. So just figure it out. Yeah. But I saw the same thing you did when that announcement came in. Patch job. Probably wouldn't make the postseason roster if it got that far, but there you go.
Yeah. So when you look at the Savant, they basically were just looking for a hard thrower. There's not really much else that jumps out to you on the Savant page. As you can see, he's got the 5.46 ERA. Had a decent ERA last year, but high velocity that also plays up pretty good because he's 6'4" and has good extension. But outside of that, I mean, he's getting barreled up at a ridiculous rate. Everything's in the air when it's being hit. Got a 7% ground ball rate. So yeah, I mean, that's a big boy. Like I saw that guy live, 6'4", 255 pounds. That's the listed weight, but ain't no telling, where he's sitting after a good meal. But for the time being, for the time being, it'll suffice. But yeah, certainly just a patch. I mean, for a guy that throws that hard, he's certainly not throwing it by anybody at any at a good rate at all. So we'll see how things go. But I think that as soon as there's a better situation that comes up, I don't think they'll have any reservations to let him go the same way they did Brebbia. So, but yeah, let's get into the down on the farm. Kenny Serwa, the knuckleball pitcher in Erie, had another good outing. He went 5 innings, allowed just 1 hit and 5 strikeouts. Alex Lang has made another rehab start as well in West Michigan. He's had pretty clean outings, and the biggest thing that's been of note is him throwing a lot of strikes. This guy has really nasty stuff and has always had a high whiff rate, but he's had trouble throwing strikes. So that's been the most important thing that we've been able to take away from his rehab starts, is that he is throwing strikes. We'll see how he fares as he moves up the ladder, because obviously I'm sure he's got the low A ball players head spinning with his stuff. So we'll see how that plays as he gets higher up. In addition to that, Hyu Lee on Tuesday was a double away from the cycle. So he's continuing to hit well. McGonigal hit and Briseño hit home runs on Thursday. And the highlight minor league player that continues to make a lot of noise right now is Max Anderson. This guy was a second round pick. He's a second baseman. He was a second round pick 2 years ago. He's fourth in the Eastern League in home runs. He's got the highest average in all of the Eastern League, and he's got the most hits by a full 10 hits right now. Definitely a guy that they were hoping to see a nice, jump in performance, because he has, because he was a pretty high pick a couple years ago, and he is not disappointed at all. Look for him to be moved up to the AAA team, I would assume, in the second half of the year, because he is mashing the ball right now. And one thing that he's done more of is the power to the pull side. It has been his major adjustment that he's been able to make. So, having a really good year at Erie, and Erie just clinched a playoff berth as well, I believe yesterday. So,
yep.
Very successful year overall for the Erie team. And I believe, well, as you talked about, Vierling is on a rehab stint in AAA right now. Oh yeah, Justin Henry Malloy was Player of the Week as well. He's been hitting well since he was sent down to AAA. I don't know where there's room for him to get back on the roster, especially with Jahmai Jones hitting the way he is. It's gonna be tough. And I was watching some content on Major League Baseball as a whole content, and they had Malloy being, I don't know who they were. I think it was Dennis Santana for Justin Henry Malloy. I think that was the trade that he had cooked up. So, he sees what we see. He sees that the Tigers have a ton of talent in the outfield right now. You got Verlin, you got Jones, you got Meadows, you got Green, you got Carpenter, Wenceel Perez. I mean, Wenceel Perez is playing like an everyday outfielder right now. He is legitimately kind of taking Kerry Carpenter's spot, if we're being real, especially because he's hitting so well from the right side of the plate. He's hitting better from the right than Kerry's hitting from the left at this point. So you got a major logjam in the outfield, and if there's an opportunity for the Tigers to get better and get somebody that can make an impact, especially if it's a starting pitcher or a bullpen guy, Malloy has done enough in the major leagues to give somebody to a team like the Pirates, who have nothing to play for. They got an open spot in a corner outfield. They can give Malloy those at bats every day. So, hate to say it, and maybe I'm just talking, but I can see where people are going with that. Any thoughts on any of that?
No, I think that's. Let's be real. We've also, I've been talking about the probability of, Malloy being dealt because of the log jam and the fact that, he hadn't quite been able to get over the hump offensively. Obviously, we know about his defensive limitations, so it kind of puts more focus on his hitting in order to be, justified to stay on the 26 man and still wearing the Tigers uniform. Of course, that also was a little complicated during Torkelson's up and down last, 24 months. When he was cold, he was in, and vice versa. So I just think, good for him in Toledo, though, bouncing back. I think that's only going to help long term, whether it's here or not. Because obviously, I think he still has potential to latch on somewhere, even if it's not here. I'm not saying as if this is a done deal, like he's going to be dealt no matter what. But there's obviously a logjam. I think anyone that's a general fan of this team and has been following the last 2 years understands that we have a litany of outfielders right now. So it'll be interesting. But I do think he'll be a top two primary, I guess if you want to call it would he qualify as a prospect in a trade right now? Because he's seen a good amount of MLB time since last year, but I don't know if it's been enough to call it 1 year of service time. But he's still young, and he provides some power, and he's patient at the plate, draws walks similarly to Torkelson, I feel like, too. So we'll see what happens. There's a lot that could happen. He could end up staying, and hell, he could end up being on the roster come playoffs. So a lot to unpack here over the next 3 or 4 months.
Absolutely, and we're going to get to a break, and then we're going to get to the pitching side of things on the other side. All right, so let's get to some of my frustrations. We all know and love the pitching chaos that was last year when we had all those injuries. I think at one time we had Mize, Olsen, and who else was hurt? Flaherty. I don't think Flaherty was gone at some points at the obviously the end of the year, but
Montero would have been the only other full-time regular at that point.
Yeah, it was Montero and Scooble, and then I know we had Olsen. Who was hurt? It was Mize, Olsen, and somebody else. I feel like was hurt. We didn't have Sawyer Gibson Long at that time.
No, he was hurt almost all year at that point. I think that was pretty much it because, again, Montero, obviously, he wasn't on the club out of spring training. He was I want to say a May or June kind of call it, maybe June, July, somewhere in the summer. But I think that honestly, that was it.
Yeah, we had given up on Manning. And I think by the time period that I'm thinking of, I think we had already traded Flaherty, maybe. Was what happened.
And Faeda was moved to the bullpen, remember that for that year?
Yeah.
So
right. Yeah. But yeah, so now I look at this week. The first thing I see is Montero isn't the starter. They legitimately open with Tyler Holton or whoever, and then literally the next inning they go to they go to the starter, which is Montero one day, and the other day is Sawyer Gibson Long. But neither of these starters enter the game with a clean slate. There's either runners on or they've already given up a bunch of runs. I think it was Sawyer Gibson Long that entered the game. I don't think Holton was even able to get out of the first inning. I think Sawyer Gibson Long acquired a 4-run deficit when he walked into the game. But it's just frustrating because Montero, first of all, Montero has a decent game. I can't tell you his stats off the top of my head, but he has a decent game after the opener, screws off the game in the beginning, and then he gets sent down. Not obviously for it, but it just kind of feels like it. I mean, you're certainly not you're not on pace to get the win because you're already working an uphill battle. But then and then the next game, Sawyer Gibson Long, he goes a starter's distance, 5 innings, 6 innings, but he's already acquired 4 runs when he starts. But do you still see the value in the opener? Is there some type of rationale that I'm missing that would justify you starting with a relief pitcher, him getting just torn out the frame, and then the actual starter comes in and has to put out the fire as opposed to the reverse?
I mean, it's as we talked prior to going live here, a lot of these lefty guys that he would do that with for the chaos sake is usually like, SGL and Montero righties. So that's kind of how he had been pairing it mostly, was a lefty opener. And then you go to your righty that would then go, 4, 5, 6 innings, depending on how they're doing that day. But, you hit it on the head. Montero had one of his better outings just the other day. 5 innings, 1 earned run, 1 walk, 5 Ks. He was solid. 70, 80 pitches in 5 innings. That's what we had been hoping for. I know I've been harping on it a bit because he had given up a lot of walks. His whip had been kind of getting him in trouble because the games where he'd give up maybe 5 hits, he'd also have 3 or 4 walks. And in 4 innings-ish, give or take, maybe 5, that's a fairly high whip. You're dealing with runners on base on a regular basis, and usually your pitch count goes through the roof at that point because you're trying to, get out of trouble all the time. But to your opener point, all of our lefty guys have been fairly inconsistent and even bad. Gunther was demoted. Herder again today gave up. First 3 batters he faced all reached today. He continues to struggle. And like you said, Holton, it's 1 game on, 1 game off, 1 game on, 1 game off. And it's off game, like you said, 3, 4 earned runs, a walk or 2, multiple hits. We talked about it too heading into the season that, if they brought back most of the same guys from the arm side, now there's enough scout tape. Now there's enough data for the advanced analytics to go through and be like, okay, how do we tack him? What do we lay off? What do we focus on? Where does he like to throw? So, but the whole point of it for AJ's side is you look at it like, okay, who can we have them burn early on by me making a pitching change that I want to make that's on schedule for us, that now forces them to have to make pinch hitting decisions and going through the roster a little more, carefully in terms of having to manage that. So, but it has not really panned out in the last at least couple weeks, I'd say 2-3 weeks now that we've had a little more, off and on injuries. But, the guys that he's had doing it, they have not been cutting it. And frankly, I'd rather just go back to the other way. Let him get through 2 times through the order and maybe a third or a couple batters in. And then you go to your lefty guy out of the pen and see if that helps. But it's been a struggle, to say the least, at least for the month of June.
Okay, so I'm picking up on what's going on. So what it appears he's trying to do is you start with a lefty, which is going to force the manager to play the numbers and all the the platoon options that you have, knowing that you're going to want to throw out as many righties as you can. And then I guess you flip there in a sense, you immediately flip the lineup on its head when you come back with a righty in the second inning, I guess. I guess where it worked a lot better was when Tyler Hogan was lights out. So you knew that you were starting clean after that first inning. And the same thing to be said about Herder and Gunther at one point. Because like we said offline, we don't have any strong left-handed pitchers right now. Holden struggled, Herder struggled, and Gunther struggled as well. So that's what's kind of messed us up, is the fact that they haven't fared well out the gate, and it's kind of put us up against up against a wall early in the game. So we'll see what they, AJ. I think AJ is putting himself in the shoes of the other manager in the way that he knows that would create a nightmare for him, because he's super, to the books about, pulling carry for the lefties and all that type of stuff. So I think he knows how much of it will be a headache for him. And that's just the angle that he's taken. But I look for him to make another adjustment, and hopefully Reese Olson should be about ready to come back soon anyway. So that'll make it less of a necessity, and that'll make our pitching staff that much stronger. But let's talk about Parker Meadows. See, they already talked to AJ Hinch about this. They asked him, how long of a leash they're going to have for a guy like Parker Meadows, and he's already given the full stamp of approval that we plan to be very patient with him, just based off the fact that he has ways to impact the game, even when he's not getting when he's not hitting well at the plate, just with his defense and his base running and all that. But Coach, do you have any let's see what Marcioni says before I finish my thing. Hot take: AJ better manager than Leland?
No.
Yeah, Coach.
Not in my opinion. Sorry.
Yeah, no.
You're talking about and in all fairness, these two managers, they're in different approaches. Two very different approaches. AJ obviously very analytical. Leland all about gut instinct and making the right decision at the right time.
Right. So yeah. So with that said about AJ Hinch, he's gonna give Meadows all the time he needs to work things out. Do you have any reservations? We know that he has not put together a full body of work in a season. He's either dealt with injuries or he, struggled to the point to where he had to be sent down at the beginning of last year. We'll break down the savant in a little bit once for the people that are listening. But any concerns with Parker Meadows and his in the slow start that he's off of? His average is currently 161.
Well, he's on a 4-game hit streak right now. He had a 3-run bomb to open up the game today. Look, people have to understand. He's been okay. His first game back was June 2nd, right? So not even 3 full calendar weeks in, he's been back. This is his spring training. Remember, he barely played at all in spring training. So he's really kind of getting his legs under him in terms of game action. And like you said, defensively, he's fine. Riley stole a ball from him left center that should have been Parker's, but Riley's just been in a zone for the last 3-4 weeks that Parker's like, fine, you can have it. And they were kind of joking about it, and even Benetti on the call too. Parker, because that's usually the center fielder's, that's his spot. Left center, right center is his, unless he gets called off. But no, I mean, look, he's still delivering hits. Sure, he's striking out a bit, but again, these guys have been in full swing for 3 months now, and he's just barely in his 3rd week. So no, this would have to be a prolonged struggle into, like August for us to consider, okay, maybe he should be going down to Toledo perhaps. But this is the only 5-tool player on this 26-man roster. Defense, range, arm, ability to steal bases. He's got line-to-line power. He is obviously fast for their aggressive base running style when they put balls in play. And he's a solid teammate in the locker room as well, and arguably a fan favorite too. So, no, I'm not worried one bit.
So you see him coming out of this, because we've seen these long stretches of struggle from him. It's not like this is something rare and strange to us. We saw him come out after having a strong spring, or I don't know if it was a strong spring last year, but we know he was healthy last spring and he still got off to a slow start. So, so we can maybe attest it to not having a spring training, but at any rate, when you look at the Savant page, he's obviously a strong base runner. He's a strong fielder. The one thing that jumps out at me is the launch angle sweet spot. I mean, he's making solid contact, and that alongside the fact that he's going to take his walks is the reason why his expected on base average is so high, which is important for a leadoff hitter, because if you're the numbers show that eventually water's going to meet its level, and so in the long haul he's going to get on base more. He's going to be able to wreak havoc on the base paths. So yeah, I think they're gonna find days here and there to give him the day off. They can throw Winfield out there in center field. They can throw Riley Green out there, and they can also put Vierling out there when the time comes. So there'll be some opportunities. Hopefully that 3-run home run that he hit to kind of blow the game wide open at the end earlier on today is a sign of things to come. I don't know if that was the one home run or if it just hasn't been updated yet. Do you know if he has another home run or if that's the only
one? He's got 2. He had one, looks like in the Baltimore series finale, and then this one today, it was his 2nd home run.
Okay, so yeah, they just haven't updated the stats, but he's taking his walks. He's the solid contact is there. Just from what I can recall myself, he has had there's been a couple times where he's hit the ball hard and it's just gone directly to somebody, which you just can't. on the as far as the other team is concerned, you can't bank on your guy being right there when a guy hits a rocket like that every time. So in due time, but I would like to see that average jump above 161. Whatever, however you slice it. So let's see what Andrew says. I agree, but can you argue with either had any success than the other? Neither won the World Series. So what's the benchmark? World Series appearance? Well,
Leland's won one.
Yeah, Leland's won.
No, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of the other Florida manager, Jack McKeon, with Miggy. Yeah.
Oh, so I see what he's saying. They both won World Series.
Or no, neither have won. He said they've made appearances. I mean,
but AJ,
that's not everything.
No. Oh, he said Leland and he said
Leland and Hinch. He's comparing still. I'm like, no. There's more. You could go to the World Series one time and never get back. That's head coach. That doesn't make you a great manager. Just making it one time, and you could have a crappy record the rest of the way.
Yeah, you're right. An MC Detroit fan says pitching needs help. Everyone except Scooble is falling apart. Yep, that's that's basically what we touched on earlier. That Scooble is definitely holding up his end of the bargain, and we're left trying to figure out what else, who else is going to step up. But so that's the Savant page on Parker Meadows. Let's get to the last break. We have a comment. He said, "Everyone playing so bad, so Swooble gets paid now." If only it worked that way, but all for it. One thing that you talked about a little bit was Colt Keith getting some play at third base. I believe he started as a third baseman, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's something that it's funny because it crossed my mind, but I'm surprised it wasn't something because we know that Cole. It's probably because it's probably because they just felt like they were overloading too much on him because we knew that Malloy and Keith were going to be taking some, they're going to be taking the field at first base a little bit, but I didn't see the Cole Keith back to third thing happening, but I'm not mad at it if he can play respectable third base. I know he had a little bit of a blunder that was kind of 50-50 if it was on him. It was on a throw in a third where it hit third. Keith allowed it to hit the base and then it flew and the runner was able to score. But I mean, with the way Keith's hitting right now, he had that tomahawk of a home run to the opposite field. And then late in game one of the Tampa series, I think he hit another home run, giving them 2 in 2 games. That might be a decent contingency plan if Javi's not available to play third because he's probably playing short. It's not a bad idea just to keep, because at that point you found a way to keep Keith in the lineup. You're able to put Torres in the lineup. He needs to play every day, no matter what. Torque, is going to continue to give you that. It has continued to be a run producer, and then it doesn't block Kerry Carpenter from that DH. I mean, he can either play right field, and then you can put somebody else in DH. So I think that the way Colt's hitting, if he can play third base, because that's kind of a hole right now. You got with Javi playing short. You still need somebody. If it's not McKinstry, if it creates a little bit more flexibility to be able to keep his bat in the lineup. Because for a while, Colt was being blocked by Torque in a way because Torque took back over first base. Colt's definitely not playing second over Torres. So it just goes to show what flexibility on the field can it makes it to where you can just bring in the best players. You don't have to say, well, he only plays corner outfielder. Well, he only plays second base. Like, you don't have to worry about that. You just put the best players out there and you say, hey, you're playing third today. Hey, you're playing left field. So yeah, I think it's a decent contingency plan. Obviously, when Veerland comes back, you kind of go back to, where's everybody going to go? But it kind of surprised me. Were you surprised to see Colt at third base?
Well, yeah, I mean, I didn't hear anything about them working on it with him. And the last start he had, ironically, you mentioned with Torres having to play every day. He was DHing that day, and Baez started at second for his debut, as we alluded to earlier. So you had both of those two guys playing almost each other's positions.
Right. That's weird.
in the same game. And it was just, we look at like, what are you just pulling names and positions out of random hats that we're doing now? Like, is Dangler going to be playing right field tomorrow at this point? Because seriously, or hell, it could be Zach McKinstry being the chaos opener. There's nothing almost like, this is getting kind of crazy, but it's really, again, out of need because these injuries have been so back and forth. And to your point too, of certain guys got to be in the lineup as much as possible, just because, as we'll get into it a little bit here, down in the weeds and the trending up and down, their offense has been down. Like you said, like one game in a series, they'll go off 10, 11 runs, and then they'll be lucky if they score 4 runs combined the next 2 games. So that's kind of the way it's been, feast or famine for them. But yeah, more on that in terms of Javi and Colt continuing to slowly get his average up and bringing some of that power back, and Riley continues to do his things. But to briefly go back to the Parker thing, I see a lot of that kind of slow start and eventual back half of the year, increase of production, similar to what Colt's been doing the last 2 years. Very slow starts, painfully slow starts, and then he just slowly, he turns the oven, the crock pot on, if you will, and he sets it on low, right? And then by the end of the summer, into the fall, we get into August and Labor Day, there he is, hitting 270 with power, playing good defense, and they're ready to go for the playoffs. So I'm hoping that's the case with Parker. But yeah, more down in the weeds in a little bit.
All right, so let's look at these comments. Third is our weakest position just because spinning door all season. Yeah, it's not like anybody has been bad there. I mean, the combination, Young was probably the worst hitting wise. Other than that, McKinstry's has had a good year. Baez has had a good year. Yeah, Ibanez and Young definitely being the lesser end of things. He says, I still want to see Trey Sweeney play. I don't know about everybody. I don't know about everybody else, but I'm not really high on Sweeney at this point. He's another guy that could be looked at as having some potential and having a ceiling. Certainly, I think with his the power, left-handed bat, but I could see him getting moved for the right price. You got guys like Hyu Lee coming up. You're going to have McGonigal soon, Max Anderson. It kind of makes Trey Sweeney expendable, especially because Javi is going to finish out his contract at this point. He's one of the better players on the team. Need to find a way to have Carey, Colt, Perez, and Sweeney all together. Carey is another one, man. It's been rough. Sometimes I hate to say it, but I remember Carey was kind of like a good feel-good story. He was drafted in the last round of the draft, and he kind of came out of nowhere. So, maybe that's starting to show itself. Marcioni says, but let's be honest,
play him every day.
Yeah, but when you're hitting under 100 against lefties and under 100 with runners in scoring position, it's like
it's only getting like you get 2 at bats in the game and get pulled. Like everyone else is getting 3 or 4 at bats, 2 games a series, and then they sit out a full game. He doesn't. He doesn't know when he's coming out, when he's going in every day. It's a totally different mental approach to it. I'm still a believer damn it, you start Kerry Carpenter every day. You start him against lefties, and you see what happens. You have to. You have to. After that hot run last year to get in the playoffs and that home run against Class A, he deserves that opportunity. That's all I'll say.
Fair. Marshall, yeah, like you said, we have deserved the right to struggle, and somehow we still find a way to get dubs. Yeah, the beauty is that we, while holding on to a strong lead in the AL Central, we get an opportunity to truly see where we need to, what voids we need to fill in, all while being the best team record-wise in baseball. So we're in a position where we have expendable players. We got some pieces that can be moved, and we can maximize. Most importantly, it all comes back to us maximizing a lot of Scooble's prime, where we know that he may not be with us, but damn it, put your best foot forward and try to win a ring. If he decides he wants to leave after all that, hey, we got what we needed, and we have hopefully Jackson Jobe can be his predecessor when it's all said and done. Not to get too far ahead of things, but the future is bright regardless, but the present is I don't want to say brighter, but I mean holding it down at the top. But Coach, before we get to the probables, were there any other statistics that you wanted to touch on, any trends or anything, or did you kind of cover that already?
Yeah. Now I'll go into the rest of that real quick here. So some of the guys just continue to produce over the last few weeks. Javi, like you said, continues to kind of have a rejuvenation year. I think that's the best way to put it. Both sides, hitting and glove. Cole Keith had hitting, prior to this game today, this afternoon, was hitting 277 this month and has really worked on getting his average up. Honestly, I think he's kept it simple because we've noted his lack of power over the last month during his initial ascent, slowed improvement in terms of hitting. But obviously recently a couple more home runs, and that high one that he hit, they said was 4.2 feet high off the ground, which was the highest home run a Tiger has hit in the, the advanced StatCast era. That thing was well above the strike zone. They went to opposite field to take the lead there. Riley Green, what more can you say? 338 this month. Prior to today, 9 runs, 19 RBIs, 6 doubles, 4 home runs. His slash line impressive, 392 OBP, 592 slug, and a 984 OPS. So those guys continue to carry the team as some of the other guys go through some of the midseason slumps, as we full well are known going to happen at some point during the year. We alluded to Flaherty struggling, concerning numbers. His March and April, very solid, 3.35 ERA. May jump to 4.67, a full 1.3 run higher, or 1.32 ERA higher. In June and 2 starts so far this year, atrocious. Almost a 7.6 ERA, plus 2.91 higher from the last month. So he is well over, almost doubled his ERA since April and March. He has not been very efficient at all. Last few starts, 7 innings, 11 hits, 15 earned runs, 4 home runs allowed, 8 Ks and walks. And for the year, he's only gone beyond 6 innings pitched once, and he's averaging over 90 pitches per outing. So he is laboring through some innings for sure, even on good days. So I'm hoping they can get it figured out, because he really is right now kind of a 2-pitch pitcher, and he works in his 3rd pitch off of those 2. So if his fastball is getting popped, he's in trouble, because he's have to go to his off-speed pitches that, he only has a good 1 off-speed as a plus pitch, and then the 3rd one that he has is not really throwing that often. So most hitters are not even considering that as a legitimate pitch to get hit on. So Torkelson, prior to today, continues his overall average decline, which, we've been noting. So 169 this month with only a 265 OBP, 305 slug, and a 570 OPS. In those last 16 games, he's 10 of 59 with only 2 home runs, 2 walks, 6 runs and RBIs, 7 walks, 2 home runs and 2 doubles with 6 runs and RBIs, 7 walks to 15 Ks. And we alluded to Carpenter hitting 173 this month, continues to go through the slide. And Dingler has been on a slide as well, hitting 167 this month. So, we've noted over the last few weeks, a couple guys get hot, a couple guys get cold, and they kind of trade on and off. That's what's kept them at this. You look at all the injuries and some of these struggles. In one hand, you say there's no way this team is 20 games or roughly over 500. And then the other hand, you look at the record, they're almost 20 games over 500. So that's between the weeds.
So Dingler, as the announcer said during the game, today was his first multi-hit game since the end of May. So probably a good 2-3 weeks. So, I feel like he hasn't had too many over games, but probably a lot of 1 for 4s, 1 for 3s, 1 for 5s as of late, which, it kind of gets hidden a little bit because they don't play every day. They don't play nights and then days and things about that. And that kind of parlays into one of the questions in the comments that we'll get to. I'll start with this before we get to the other question because you may go off on this one. But MC Detroit fans says, is Jake Rogers at risk of being DFA in favor of Tomas Nido or someone else? Me personally, I would say no. Not for Tomas Nido. Maybe down the line. I think the next catcher that could possibly take over as the number 2 is either going to be Lorenzo or Briseño, which is going to be down the line because Lorenzo's in Double-A, but he's not having a great year. So I don't think it's yet a risk for that. I think that you bring back Jake Rogers on whatever cheap deal next year because he still brings enough just as a dugout guy and the leadership, and he still calls a good game. So even though he's not hitting great, Dingler's going to get most of those games regardless. You don't lose anything. You gotta carry 2 catchers anyway. So Tomas Nido, he calls a pretty good game. He defends his position well, and he's hit pretty well, but there's not enough. He doesn't have enough stock built up to take Jake Rogers' job. It's just not worth it. Marcioni. Oh, did you want to? What were your thoughts on that?
Oh, just briefly. We have team control for Jake Rogers through next year, so he's not a free agent until 2027. So we wouldn't designate for Simon. He could be sent down this year or next year, but after 2026, that's when he'd be eligible to be cut without any options.
Okay, yeah. So we could legitimately, but we'd have to open up a 40-man spot for Nido, though, I believe.
For Nido, yeah, because he cleared waivers, yeah.
Okay, so Marcioni says, do you think School's Love the D has any shot of outweighing Boris's proven track record of making the right decision for his clients? Coach, I think I already know what you're going to say. You don't hire Scott Boris to allow your love for the city to outweigh all the money that you want to make. Coach?
Well, I think the word discount is not in Boris's dictionary, including home team.
I don't even think he can pronounce that. He's like, no, I can't do it. He says, I say that because remember when Eric Haas was DFA in favor for Carson Kelly? Carson Kelly
lightning in a bottle.
Well, I won't say that. He's still having a good year in Chicago. Oh, you talking about Eric Haas?
No. I'm saying for us, he was lightning in a bottle because he kind of went through and was kind of just another, run-of-the-mill catcher, and then he got hot with us and we traded him. But yeah, he's been good in the last 2 years since we traded him.
We traded him last summer.
Last summer?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Traded him to Texas, I want to say. But,
yep.
But yeah. Carson. But once again, Carson Kelly. Yeah, he wasn't here very long. Jake has been around. Jake's been in the system since Verlander. He came up with Green and those guys. So it's going to take a little bit more to. And like I said, Tomas Nido, great replacement for the time being, but there's no longevity in it. We're talking about the number 2 catcher, not the number 1 catcher that we're replacing. He said, MC Detroit says, I and remember that Carson Kelly was cut from Arizona and was just a defensive first catcher. Yeah. And the first year that we went out and got him, Carson Kelly was not good for us. It wasn't until last year where he worked up enough, worked up enough stock to where he actually had some trade value that he was even good. So yeah, he was a former DFA defensive catcher. Rogers the only guy left from Verlander. Yeah, absolutely. Cam Maven, was Cam Maven in the deal?
I don't think so. No.
No, I don't know. I mean, it might have been Cam Maven, but okay, should have asked for Kyle Tucker in that trade. Yeah. All right, so this is the conversation that this is the question that I skipped. He said, "Would Carey be worth trading for a new starting pitcher because Flaherty won't give the same haul this time around compared to last year?" Hey, I mean, we talked about there being a logjam in the corner outfield. Obviously, Riley Green is the left field of the future. Center field wise, it's Parker for the foreseeable future. Carey is this is the Savant page right here. I'll pull this down. I mean, the killer part for me is obviously he's got power, no doubt about it. He's barreling up balls, he's hitting them hard when he makes contact. But the thing that's been the issue is that he chases that high fastball out of the zone with two strikes. He knows it's coming. The pitcher knows he's going to throw it, and he just can't hold up. His strikeout numbers aren't bad. Like he's middle of the pack as far as actual strikeouts, but if he could just, and we know that he's a free swinger, him being aggressive is what has gotten him to where he is. But for the love of God, the 1%, the one percentile walk rate is kind of wild. I mean, you look at guys like the upper echelon hitters in the league, like Aaron Judge takes his walks, right? We all know the Soto shuffle. You know that he's willing to take it, take some pitches as well. Like I feel like if he could just up that walk rate just a tad, just get on base just a little bit more, he would be that much more valuable. And it would make him a much better run producer because pitchers would be forced to throw him strikes. I feel like in so many different occasions where he's got runners on, they know they don't have to necessarily give him their best pitch, and he's gonna expand the zone. So I know there's some teams that might be interested in him. He's 27 years old, so he's not super young, but he's also not old. He's right in that prime age, and he would be spooky anywhere with a shorter porch in right field. I mean, I know we have the short porch in right field, but I mean, I don't want to put him in a Yankee jersey, but anyways.
I don't want to put him anywhere in the American League.
Yeah. So something tells me he would make us pay. But your thoughts on the value that we could get, because we know that Malloy's younger, but Carpenter's got more value even at his older age, right?
Yeah, and it's kind of a yes and no because again, he doesn't play every day. He doesn't hit. He's 7 for 37 against lefties. I got his splits up. Half his base hits are extra base hits. He's got 2 home runs and a double. He's struggling a little bit against righties right now. I mean, to your point about the walk rate, we've asked him to lead off a lot this year. At the beginning of the season, he was pretty much leadoff hitter for like the first 2.5 months. Without Parker, without Vierling. We had some issues. Badu was hurt for a while, couldn't use him. McKinstry was playing a lot in the outfield and having to play a lot in the infield. So, as a leadoff hitter, you're supposed to be patient, but that's not his brand. So I'm really kind of not surprised that didn't really change his approach. He did have some success. He hit actually a fairly good amount of his home runs from the leadoff position, but I still like him better with, in the middle lineup, sandwiched around, Torkelson or Dingler or Riley Green, with guys on, batting behind Gleiber and Zach and Parker, because like you said, if he's hitting with runners in scoring position, runners on base, there's chaos on the base, pitchers are going to have to throw strikes because they can't really just afford to put him on or pitch around him. Not to say that they would do that like he's having that great of a year, but he's got that potential. Just ask Class A why you don't give him that type of pitch to hit. So we'll see. I would say this: if you need to make a trade for a pitcher for him, it better be someone that we've got, another 3-4 years of team control, or he's on a fairly good contract that Illich can be affording to take on after the fact.
Yeah, it's got to be the right move. Yeah, I agree as far as having the years of control. You don't just give Kerry Carpenter away, because when he is on, he is a very dangerous, very, very dangerous power hitter. This is probably the worst stretch probably of his early major league career. I've never seen it to where I was so like just blah about him being up at the plate.
Yeah.
Let's get to these final questions before we wrap things up. He says, unless Max Clark finishes the season in Toledo, I don't think we should be worried about the outfield jam right now.
Correct.
Right field, also you have Wenzel Perez. And yeah, we're not going to see Max Clark at AAA. I think we probably see him moved up after the All-Star break, along with Briseño, McGonigal, and yeah, that's probably it. Maybe Isaac Pacheco, but I'm not sure. So yeah, I don't think you. I think although Max Clark did hit a solo home run today, I did see that. I think that his progression has kind of halted, where McGonigal's is out of this world right now. I think he's ranked 22nd overall in all of Major League Baseball. They said his projected ETA for the major leagues is 2027. I venture to believe that's being pushed up at least 1 year. Well, I won't say at least 1 year, because I don't think we'll see him this year, but because he's still in low A ball. But I don't see any reason why he doesn't make a debut at some point in 2026. So
he
yeah,
hit another one today at McGonigal.
Did he hit another home run today?
Yep. It was during the 8th, 9th inning of the Tigers game today. Yeah.
Oh, later in the game. Wow, that's insane. Yeah, there's nothing left for him to prove. There's also no reason to move him up right this second, but
let him cook.
So if you guys want to know what the probable starters are, we're pushing, well over an hour. I go ahead. I guess we can do it real quick before we get out of here. We're wrapping up right after that.
Yeah. So this will be the last off day Monday. They've had 3 in a row. So good for them coming back for a long homestand series. We got the, still call me Oakland Athletics. Screw Sacramento. They come to town. Tuesday should be a good matchup. Skubal against Luis Severino, former longtime Yankee starter, will square off against Skubal on Tuesday. Wednesday looks like our chaos day. TBD against Lopez. Matinee Thursday afternoon will be Flaherty against Springs. And then we welcome our first divisional opponent since the White Sox. The Twins come to town that weekend. Friday night will be Sawyer Gibson Long against Festa. Saturday will be Casey Mize against Ober. Quick side note, live while we were on right now, Mize is cleared of any major injury. He was dealing with some cramping. That's why he was removed today. So as of right now, he'll be good to go for that next scheduled start against Ober. And then Sunday, twice in 1 week, Skubal will bookend Monday and Sunday by finishing off Sunday afternoon against Paddock. I think it was former Padre all-star pitcher too. Then briefly sneak peek into the July with the holiday coming around already again. They will go to Washington and then Cleveland to start off the month of July.
All right, and yeah, how about to call them Oakland too? The A series should be interesting. There's some pretty interesting young talent over there. You got Lawrence Butler, you got Wilson, you got Nick Hertz, you got Denzel.
Brent Rooker, right?
But yeah, Rucker, who's a little bit older, but yeah, he's still he's young-ish. You got Denzel Washington. No, Denzel. What is his name?
You might need to
Was
turn
fun.
on that
I was about to
AC.
say Denzel Valentine. That's what I wanted to say.
Even funnier.
Yeah. What's his name? It's Denzel something. Clark. Denzel Clark.
Yeah.
I know it was like a regular name, but yes. You got Denzel Clark, who's one of the better defensive center fielders out there. Jacob Wilson. That's his name, Jacob Wilson. So yeah, got a lot of young talent.
First baseman Nick Kurtz too. He's hitting a couple walk-offs this week too for him.
Yep. And then Santer, what's the name? Santer Senderstrom. He had a strong start to the season. He was hitting a bunch of home runs. But yeah, the A's have struggled. So we're back at home. It seems like we've been at home we have been at home a lot of June. Just had a quick series in Tampa, and now we're back for another 2 in June. So hopefully we can finish strong. I was really anticipating us. I mean, we're still holding on to a nice lead, but I was looking forward to us kind of handling some business. We still got we already played the O's. But yeah, at any rate, hopefully we can end June, since we'll probably have a lot more road games coming up in July and some better competition. So that is that for the show. Please subscribe to Bleachers to Speakers on YouTube. Let's see if I can pull up this. Here we go. Please subscribe to Bleachers to Speakers on YouTube for the raw and uncut show. And then, of course, subscribe to Corner to Copa on all audio aggregators. You can probably Google that so you can catch it on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, whatever you got going on. And we'll be back next week. Our summers, obviously the holidays are coming up, and our summers are very action packed and busy. So just bear with us. We'll try to get a release, an announcement, for the week out as soon as possible. Because I think our shows will be kind of varying, whether it's a Sunday afternoon, evening, Monday evening. Just bear with us. It's going to be in that time frame. Coach, anything else you wanted to touch on before we get up out of here?
Stay cool, stay hydrated, and let's see if the Tigers stay hot as we near July.
Absolutely. We out.